Let's go over organizing tips that will help you reduce mistakes. Today, I will share some tips I learned on the job as a management consultant, as well as takeaways from this Japanese productivity book that has not been translated in English, so you will be the first one to know. You could organize by time, department, project, or name. Merging the date and the client name really worked well for me because I had a good understanding before the end of the year review on what I worked on that year. What you are doing is creating a system that will save you tons of time. The key is to make sure that the system makes logical sense to you. I like to use sequential numbering and add a 0. If you sort your folders alphabetically, 01 will come before 10, not the other way around. The folders that you access most often should be at the top with a higher priority and thus a lower number. I'm sure you know this already. Let's avoid using special characters when we are naming our folders. I also like to include working, archive, and final folders. Having this structure helps you quickly identify your final deliverable when you need it. Pro tip here, my favorite Windows shortcuts are F2 for renaming a file and Tab to rename the next file, as well as Ctrl-Shift-N to create a new folder. Now that you have the folder structure down, let's get into the file naming conventions. As a rule of thumb, always agree with your team on a naming convention. Instead of using spaces, incorporate underbars. If you ever need to use SQL or data analysis tools, then having spaces in your file name makes things a little bit more complicated. This format makes the most intuitive sense for me. I like the year, month, and date format. When you order your files in chronological order, having the year first works best. After the date comes the file name. If you are using compound words, then capitalize the first letter of each word so that it is much easier for you to identify the files. So you have the date, the file name, and now let's do some version control by either including your initial or timestamps. In some of the projects I've been on, I've had to version control till the hour. Then you know exactly where to go find them. Another pro tip to minimize mistakes. Instead of using Ctrl-S to save your work, I like to do Ctrl-Shift-S to save as. Something else you can do is before opening the file, make a copy of it and then start saving your work as you go. Now let's talk about messaging apps. Check the names of the people that you are trying to send the message to and double check, triple check, and read and reread the message that you're about to send. When I first started working, I was based in San Jose and I was going to relocate to the Washington DC office. I was very excited for that transfer and was reaching out to people in the DC office. Once I reached out to a director and said, "Hello, this is Yujin," but realized that my O key on my keyboard was broken. So what I ended up sending was this. These are small mistakes I don't make anymore. I share it because I know it can happen. Don't blame yourself too much, but there are ways to prevent it. I would go to the preference section and then change so that an enter does not necessarily send the message. I would have to press both shift and enter to send the message. Better yet, if your messaging application has a feature to change the background color or add a photo, do that so that you don't confuse sending a message to your loved ones to someone at work. We will talk about calendar management in detail a separate time too, because this topic deserves a full 10-minute. I prefer to schedule my Zoom meetings to start 5 minutes past the hour. This 5-minute buffer seems very small, yet I've seen it work great for everyone. During those 5 minutes, you can go on a bio break, take a mental break, and get ready for that meeting. It also gives time to everyone else to settle in, especially if they have a lot of back-to-back meetings. This 5-minute could be a nice breather. The next tips from someone I admire so much at work. What she taught me was if the team is based in multiple time zones, include the standard time zone and the meeting time in the title of the meeting. This is especially helpful when you're traveling. Your phones typically update to the appropriate time zones, but I haven't seen laptops automatically update time zones based on your location. If you know a way to do it, please let me know. To avoid running late to meetings, set reminders to your calendar. I like to use a 1-minute reminder for my online meetings and 15 minutes for the ones I have to show up in person. I also like to use my calendar as a to-do list because I want to make sure that I have everything in one place, and to me, that's the calendar. It's my one single source of truth. So for example, when I'm traveling for work, I would have this reminder from 9:30 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. titled Pack Work. And in the description are my typical things I must pack when I'm traveling for work. And the great thing about doing this on the calendar is that if you're on the road on a typical basis, then you don't need to rewrite your to-do list. All you need to do is duplicate that calendar and save it for another time. So use the calendar and you won't forget. There are 3 actions you can take to take full control of your inbox: respond, mark as read, or archive. I personally like to respond as soon as I can so that it doesn't take too much of my headspace. Also, I think it's nice to not let someone else wait for me. If it's something that you need more time to respond, want, then you can mark the email as unread to get back to it later in the day. For all my email unboxes, I like to have my unread emails to less than 20 each day. I also used to tag emails and have these like fancy things that automatically puts your emails to a specific folder, but over the years, the email search functions got really good. If you trust your memory on which keywords to use, then you don't need to bother too much about making folders. If you do want to be a bit more meticulous, the folder structure I recommended in the beginning is also applicable here. We don't go past 2 layers of subfolders. Now that your inbox is clean, let's send some emails. When I'm sending emails, I use this quick checklist to make sure I'm not missing anything. Spelling someone's name wrong can leave a bad first impression, so double and triple check. I've been called Yuin, Yulin, and my favorite, Yo. Thankfully, both Outlook and Gmail have a built-in function to remind you that you forgot to attach an attachment. If it's an especially important email, try emailing it to yourself first and see how it appears on your screen both on the computer and on your phone. I have a detailed walkthrough on how to write business professional emails for 10 different scenarios, so feel free to check that out. Let's delete things we no longer need. Unsubscribe from newsletters, get rid of the outdated screenshots, RSVP no to calendar invites that you can't make, and free up space in your digital world. In 2022, I finally got in the habit of closing down my laptop instead of having multiple tabs all open. I also have a folder called Download, Delete Later. When I know that I'm downloading a file just for a quick glance, then I would place them here and delete everything at the end of the day. You can also change your default location to save your files. Personal pet peeve is I like to keep my desktop clean. I consider my desktop my digital home, so when I open my laptop, the first thing I want to see is a clean, open space. This is nice. And I can focus my energy and efforts on what really matters. Do you ever feel hungry or tired around 3 p.m.? I do. I try to avoid scheduling important meetings or important deadlines around this time because I know that's when my energy is at the lowest, and I try to give myself a snack or a small break. And in between those breaks, that's when I would do administrative things like doing my timesheet or working on my work-related expenses. Taking care of these administrative stuff in between important meetings can save your brain space. As you review this past month or this past week, you could probably tell a few time slots that you feel a bit more happy or a bit more excited versus lethargic, lazy, and tired. So identify those times and try to work around your schedule to make sure you place your important task in the times that you're going to be your best self. So my deep work happens right before lunch and right before dinner. One of my favorite professors at the Wharton Business School taught me that everything important should happen before noon. He told me that, Eugene, nothing good happens after 6 p.m. which, looking back, is kind of true. So understand what time of the day you feel like your best self, you're most energized and most excited. Use that time to tackle important things. And most importantly, I hope you're not too hard on yourself. Be nice, especially to you. We all make mistakes. I've been there. I've been very embarrassed and was so disappointed at myself that I cried in the bathroom stall. Thankfully, no one walked in. But what matters more is what we take away from these experiences and how we become stronger. It's just a job. It should not define who you are as a person. Only you get to decide who you are as a person. I want to remind you that you got this. And my next video topic is...
Let's go! It's time to be the GOAT. It's time to enter God mode, man. Let's get it going. I wanna be the greatest, energy is overflowing.